Stealing $50 million over the internet is easier than you think, especially when your victims give you the money themselves and thank you for it. My name is Dev Null, and I ran the largest network of fake casinos on the Darknet for 3 years. Now I'm sitting in a small cafe somewhere on the other side of the planet, drinking coffee and watching ordinary people go to work. They don't know that the man at the next table once ruined the lives of thousands of others like them, but the real cost of that money was much higher. 3 people are already dead, and I know I could be next. I'm not writing this confession for the sake of forgiveness. There will be no forgiveness, neither from the victims, nor from former partners, nor from the security services of the 3 countries. I am writing because the truth must be told, because behind the beautiful interfaces and the glittering promises of easy money lies a machine that devours human destinies. It all started in 2017 when I was 22. I was a 4th-year cybersecurity student at a technical university. I won't say which one. Too many traces could lead back to me. I'll just say that it was Eastern Europe, post-Soviet space, where talented programmers earned pennies and corruption was the norm of life. Since childhood, I have been drawn to computers. At 14, I already knew 3 programming languages. At 16, I built my first server from junk. At 17, I hacked into the university's local network just out of curiosity. I didn't steal, I didn't harm, I just wanted to understand how everything worked. But when the dean called me into his office and offered to solve the problem, I realized a simple truth for the first time. Everything in our world is bought and sold. I graduated from university with a red diploma, but I couldn't find a job in my specialty. Or rather, I did. They offered me $300 a month for the position of system administrator in a local IT company. This money was barely enough for a rented room and food, and all around me were the BMWs and Mercedes of those who knew how to earn. The first time I entered the Darknet was out of pure curiosity. I installed Tor, set up a VPN, and studied the forums. At first, I just read about how to bypass blockades, how anonymous payments work, how underground markets are organized. It was scary and fascinating at the same time. I pulled off the first gray scheme by accident. I saw a request on one of the forums. We needed a parser of data from open sources, a simple task for a programmer of my level. The customer paid in bitcoins and did not require any documents. I wrote the script in 2 days and received $500, more than I had earned in 2 months of official work. Gradually, the orders became more and more. Bots for racking up views, scripts for automatic account registration, parsers of personal data from social networks. I told myself that it wasn't criminal, just a gray area, that I wasn't stealing or killing, just writing code. By the end of 2018, I was already earning over $1,000 a month. I rented a normal flat, bought a powerful computer, and started studying more serious technologies. I mastered anonymous networks, learned how to set up servers in different jurisdictions, and got to grips with cryptocurrency mixers. The reputation in narrow circles was growing. The nickname DevNull came to mean quality and reliability. I never screwed customers, always delivered work on time, and knew how to keep quiet. In a world where every second person is a potential snitch or fraudster, this was worth a lot. In the autumn of 2019, I received a message that changed my whole life. A contact appeared in an encrypted chat room. He knew more about my work than a random customer should. What's more, he knew my real name. Hello, DevNull, or whatever your name is in real life. We have an offer, a serious offer for a serious programmer. Ready to take it to the next level? My first reaction was fear. Someone broke my anonymity. I was impressed. I replied, "Depends on the offer. We are building a product for the entertainment industry. We need a technical leader. Salary is $10,000 a month plus a percentage of sales. Interested? $10,000 a month." That was more than I earned in a full year in my official job. Of course, I realized that entertainment industry in our context could mean anything, but greed was stronger than caution. Details? I replied. Online casinos, full cycle of development and support, server part, interfaces, payment systems, security systems, work in a team of professionals. Everything is clean and anonymous. Casinos, nothing seemingly illegal at first glance. What's required of me? Meet in the encrypted voice chat room tomorrow at 20 o'clock. Bring a summary of your technical skills. We'll go over the details. I didn't sleep that night. I walked around the flat, smoking one cigarette after another, thinking. On the one hand, huge money and the opportunity to engage in really complex technical tasks. On the other hand, it's not clear what they meant by casino, but this morning I realized that the prospect of making serious money is stronger than doubt. At exactly 8 o'clock in the evening of the next day, I entered the specified chat room. The voice in the headphones had been changed by the modulator, but the person speaking was clearly educated, with a technical background. "Welcome to the team, DevNull. You're now part of a project that will turn the online gambling industry upside down." I didn't yet know that 3 years later, this project would really turn my life around, only not at all as promised. But then, on that autumn evening in 2019, I simply said, "I'm ready." It wasn't until my second month on the job that I realized we weren't the only ones on our servers, and that our servers were being watched by people who it was better to never meet. The first task was simple: to create a copy of a popular European casino, the exact copy, the same fonts, the same colors, the same navigation. The only difference was the domain and payment details. "People are attracted to the familiar," the chatbot explained to me. "They see a familiar interface and relax." The team turned out to be bigger than I expected. 8 people, all with technical education, all from the former Soviet Union. We only knew each other by nicknames. No one knew our real names. Only communicated through encrypted channels. No video calls, no real meetings, maximum anonymity. It took 2 weeks to create the first casino. I raised servers in 3 jurisdictions, set up security, and wrote the game logic. The most difficult part was the game algorithms. No one should win more than a deposit, the tech instructed. At most, small amounts for the illusion of honesty. I wrote an algorithm that analyzed each player. The system gave beginners 20 to 30% of their first deposit to win, to make them believe. Regular players occasionally got some small change, but big winnings were completely excluded. All the machines did not work on randomness, but on pre-scripted scenarios. Beautiful animation, sounds of winning, but the result is predetermined. The first launch is on the 15th of November 2019. A person under the nickname Traffic bought a base of 5,000 email addresses of players from Germany, Austria, Switzerland. The mailing went out at night. Bonus 100% on the first deposit. The first player, a German from Dusseldorf, funded his account with 200 euros. He played for half an hour, won 60 euros, tried to withdraw. Support explained about wagering bonus with x35 odds. 2 hours later, the German drained all 260 euros. By the end of the first day, 30 registrations, deposits for 4,200 euros. Paid out, 0. The following months passed like a blur. By December, we had 3 casinos, 2,400 players, a turnover of 340,000 euros. My income was $28,000 a month. I bought a new car, moved into an expensive flat. I told my friends that I was working remotely for a Western IT company, but the scary thing was how quickly I got used to it. To the letters from cheating players, to the reports of plums, to the fact that other people's problems were just numbers. Our SMM set up content production. YouTube channels with reviews of honest casinos, fake streams with fake winnings. I prescribed a separate logic for the actors where big wins were possible. Viewers saw a streamer bet 100 euros and win 5,000. By the spring of 2020, we were running a network of 12 casinos. My income exceeded $50,000 a month. But nights I read the letters from the players. A man lost money for his wife's surgery, a student lost a term scholarship, a retiree lost a lifetime savings. In May, the first incident occurred. A programmer from Munich suspected something wrong, analyzed our code, and posted an investigation on the forum. "We have a problem," the analyst reported. "In a couple of days, everyone will know about us." In 48 hours, we moved everything to new servers, changed domains. 1,200 players lost access to their accounts, and 240,000 euros of balances. "Normal operating expenses," Tech commented. But that's when I started noticing strange things in the server logs. Suspicious requests, port scans, database examinations. Too professional for a lone hacker. And then one of our fake streamers turned out not to be as fake as we thought. One famous streamer worked for us for 3 months. A large channel, 80,000 subscribers, daily broadcasts with a game in our casinos. The viewers believed him because he looked like a normal guy who just liked risk. It wasn't until June 2020 that I realized it wasn't an actor. It all started with a technical glitch. During a regular stream, a special account with inflated winnings glitched. Instead of a rigged win, the system gave him the real result, a loss of 500 euros. A normal actor would have stopped the broadcast, contacted us, solved the problem, but he kept playing, and not just acting, he funded the account with his own money. Real money. I was watching through the admin in real time. The guy was betting 50, 100 euros per spin, lost, got angry, funded his account again. Within an hour, he'd drained over 1,000 euros, his own money. "We have a problem," I wrote into the general chat. "He's playing for real." "So what?" replied the tech. "Let him drain it. More money in the common pot." But I realized it meant we had lost control. This streamer was an addicted player who had accidentally fallen into our scheme and was now advertising the casino. Worse, if he is a real player, it means that sooner or later he will try to withdraw a large sum of money. And when he realizes he can't withdraw, he'll start digging. The guy had 80,000 followers, one expose, and our scheme goes down. And then the thing I feared most happened. On the 23rd of June, our streamer won the jackpot, 50,000 euros. My system failed, and the streamer got a win which should have been impossible. The withdrawal request came in half an hour later. The team gathered for an emergency meeting. "We pay," the tech said at once. 50,000 against reputation is pennies. More than that, it's the best publicity we can get. And we paid. The streamer got his money, put out an enthusiastic video. It gave so much credibility to the audience that we couldn't even imagine, but it was that success that ruined us. After a month, I noticed strange things in the server logs. Someone was very professionally scanning our ports, studying the database structure, looking for vulnerabilities. And then Codebreaker came along. The message came in private chat. "Hi DevNull, I think we should talk." He knew the details of our infrastructure, the turnover amounts, even my main nickname. "About what?" I wrote. "About you playing on someone else's field. Your success has attracted the attention of people who don't like competition." Codebreaker explained about the group controlling a large part of illegal gambling in Europe. Territories, percentages, permits to operate. The price for solving the problem is 30% of income. In return, a quiet job under protection. And if we refuse, in a month your servers will be lying down and you'll be on Interpol's lists. Tech chose to ignore the threats. The internet is free territory. The first attack started a week later. DDoS on the servers. Our domains were blacklisted by antiviruses. In a fortnight, we lost half of our audience. But the real blow came on August 5th. "DevNull, we have an offer you can't refuse," he wrote. The next messages came at intervals of a few minutes. "We know about your scheme from the beginning, the composition of the team, the revenues, the technical implementation." Then came the pictures, my house, my car, the cafe where I had breakfast, all unsigned, but the message was clear. 2 options. The first is that you work but share information with us about clients, partners, technology. In return, protection. And the other one? The second option in your photos, 48 hours to decide. But the worst was ahead. What I learned the next day turned everything upside down. While reviewing the server logs, I noticed strange database queries. Someone was regularly uploading financial reports and customer data, and they were doing it from an account that only had access to analytics. I dug deeper into the investigation. Turns out our analyst has been transmitting data to third parties for the last 6 months. Through a separate encrypted channel, screenshots of server logs, financial reports, customer data, everything went to an unknown recipient. Even the team's internal discussions somehow got to this contact. I realized we'd been leaked from the inside from the start. "Guys," I wrote into the general chat room, "we have a rat." The response was instantaneous. The analyst disappeared from all chat rooms 5 minutes after my message. He just disappeared as if he had never existed. "Holy shit," the tech wrote. "How much could he drain?" "Everything," I replied. "Absolutely everything." Tech made the decision for everyone. We're shutting down, now. The next 72 hours were the most stressful of my life. We launched an emergency evacuation protocol that we had developed at the beginning of the project but hoped never to use. All servers are offline. All domains transferred to automatic deletion. Databases encrypted and destroyed. Even our chats were erased by special bots that overwrote the data several times. The money was evacuated through a network of cryptocurrency mixers. Each Bitcoin passed through at least 7 different services before reaching the final wallets. Traces were being lost for good. My share was $3.2 million, more than I could spend in a lifetime. But that money smelled like blood. The blood of people who believed the pretty websites and lost everything. On the 8th of August, Tech wrote his last message. Good luck to everyone, don't know anyone else. After that, the team scattered. Everyone disappeared in their own direction. I bought documents in a new name from one of the Darknet vendors. Quality documents, passport, driving license, even a criminal record, a complete cover story to start a new life. On the 12th of August, I got on a plane, I won't say where, but it was a country where there are no extradition requests from Interpol and where you can live comfortably on passive income from cryptocurrency investments. For the first few months, I lived in a constant state of paranoia. Every stranger on the street seemed like an agent. Every phone call was a potential threat. I changed hotels every few days, used cash only, avoided CCTV cameras. But gradually, the fear receded. News from the old world was rare and fragmentary. Through my contacts on the Darknet, I learned that 2 of our team had been caught after all. Tech and the man in charge of finance had been caught trying to cash large sums of money in Europe. No word on the others. Either they managed to escape or made a deal with the security services. As for our trader analyst, he disappeared too, but I suspect his disappearance was more final than ours. It's been 3 years now. I live a quiet, inconspicuous life. I officially work as an IT consultant for a small local company. The salary is symbolic, but it creates a legal income history. The real money lies in cryptocurrency wallets scattered across a dozen blockchains. Every month I spend no more than $1,000, exactly as much as a local programmer can afford. Sometimes I read news about the fight against illegal casinos, the amounts of damage, the number of victims, the successes of law enforcement agencies. In these summaries, there is also mention of our scheme as one of the biggest cyber frauds of recent years. Officially, we stole $47 million from players in 15 countries. Unofficially, much more. Many victims never went to the police, ashamed to admit their gambling addiction. A man who lost money for his wife's medical treatment, a student who lost her scholarship, a pensioner who lost his life savings, thousands of people whose fates we destroyed for the sake of numbers on a screen. Money brings no peace. Every dollar reminds me that I have become part of a machine that devours human lives. I've tried to do charity work anonymously. I've transferred sums to funds to help game addicts, but it doesn't help me sleep well. Why am I writing this confession? Maybe to ease my conscience. Or maybe just because silence kills from the inside out. If you're reading this story and thinking about creating something like this, don't do it. The money will run out, your reputation will be restored, but you will forever have on your conscience the ruined lives of people who just wanted a little thrill. Beautiful interfaces, professional tech support, fake reviews. All this is just a wrapper for a machine that turns human hopes into numbers in the bank accounts of scammers. Behind every click is a real person with real problems and dreams, and there is no amount of money that would be worth ruining those dreams. I close my laptop and walk out of the cafe. It's an ordinary day outside, ordinary people going about their business. None of them know that the man who stole millions of dollars and destroyed thousands of destinies has passed by. But I know, I'll always know. The story ends here. Dev Null disappears into the crowd, leaving only these lines as a reminder that in a digital world, the human cost of success is sometimes prohibitive. $3.2 million in bits. That's how much went through my channel during the streamings. My earnings totaled $847,000. I thought I had found the perfect way to monetize cyber sports. My nickname is Guest404. I decided to tell this story because I realized what I got myself into was much bigger and more dangerous than just the generosity of rich fans. 2.5 years ago, I was an ordinary guy from a large CIS city, 19 years old, second year of technical institute, and one big dream: to become a professional CS.io player. I had level 10 on Faceit, 2800 ELO, and several offers from Tier 3 teams. My parents didn't understand my passion for cybersports. For them, it was a waste of time. I was always short of money. My scholarship only covered travel and lunches. The idea to start streaming came in October 2020. I was watching S1 MPIL getting big donations of 500 quid and more, and I thought, what if I give it a try? On the 18th of October 2020, I held my first stream. Played for 4 hours, had 7 viewers, mostly friends. No donations, but a few supportive messages in chat. For the next 2 months, I streamed almost every day. By December, I had 180 followers and 20 viewers on average. I received my first donation on the 23rd of December, $3 from CS Fan 2005. By New Year's Eve, I had accumulated $47. January and February 2021 were stable. Streamed 5 times a week. Donations came irregularly from $2 to $10. In 2 months, I earned about 130 quid. Everything changed on the 15th of March 2021. There was a usual evening stream. Faceit was playing. 25 people were sitting in the chat, and then a notification popped up. Donation alert, 5,000 bits OT. Anonymous fan 47. Message, great game, keep it up. 5,000 bits is $50. Biggest donation in my career. But the weird thing was that this was the first time I saw this nickname. Anonymous fan 47 was not a follower. He didn't write in chat. The next day, another donation from Anonymous fan 47. 6,500 bits, 65 quid. 1 day later, another 1,000 bits, $100. By the end of March, there were 4 such accounts. Lover 2021, Support CS, Random. The scheme is the same. Large donations in bits, no communication, only standard support phrases. For March, I received $540. On the 3rd of April, everything became clear. Private message from Anonymous, fan 47. Hi! We've been following your streams for a month now. We would like to propose cooperation. Can we chat in Telegram? They sent a link to the CS_business_2021 channel. Welcome, ready for a mutually beneficial cooperation. What exactly do you propose? I wrote. It's simple. We support your channel by donating to bits, large sums of money. In return, you transfer a portion in cryptocurrency to our wallets. Your commission is 25%. Why such a scheme? Problems with bank transfers to some countries. Cryptocurrency solves that. You get stable income. We get convenient conversion. Win-win scheme. It sounded logical. Many companies use crypto to circumvent bank restrictions. What sums are planned? Let's start with 5,000 to 10,000 bits a week, $50 to $100. Your commission is 12 to 25 quid. If things go smoothly, we'll go up. Agreed, I wrote. On the 8th of April, during the stream, came a donation for 5,000 bits from Random. $50. After the stream, I received a Bitcoin address. Transfer $37.50, your $12.50. I registered on the exchange and sent Bitcoin to the address. The next day, I received a message. Funds received, great job. The next 2 weeks went according to plan. Twice a week, I received 5,000. 1,000 bits, transferred the main part, left the commission. I earned an additional 78 quid. I felt like a real businessman. Streams brought real money. You could afford normal food, upgrade your peripherals. But on the 25th of April, I got a message that changed the whole game. We're moving to a new level. Starting tomorrow, the sums will be many times bigger. You ready for some serious money? But first, we need to discuss new working conditions. On April 26th at 7:30 in the evening, half an hour before the stream, I received a notification of a donation for 25000 bits. I was sitting in Discord with my team, discussing tactics for the upcoming tournament. My phone vibrated. Open Twitch, 25,000 bits from Mega_Pro, 250 quid, more than I was making in a month. Immediately after the stream, I wrote on Telegram, "Got it. Is this the serious money?" "This is just the beginning," came the reply. "Today you transfer $188, keep $62, but the scheme is changing. Now we work through several wallets and different cryptocurrencies." They sent a list, 3 Bitcoin addresses, 2 Ethereum, 1 Monero. Divide the amount into 6 parts, transfer at hourly intervals to be safe. I spent all night transferring money. I registered on new exchanges, bought different cryptocurrencies, and sent in installments. By morning, it was done. Great job, they wrote this morning. Starting tomorrow, 40000 bits every 2 days. 40000 bits is $400 for one donation. My commission is 100 quid every 2 days. 1,500 a month just from the commission. For the next week, I lived like a fog. Every 2 days, huge donations came in, from 40 to 60,000 bits at a time. I transferred crypto, got my share, bought things I'd only dreamed of before. New keyboard, mouse, 240 hertz monitor. I told my parents that I won a tournament or got a sponsorship contract. Finally, your games are getting some use, Dad said when I showed off the new equipment. But by the middle of May, something changed. Donations started coming not only during streams, but also when I was offline. 3-4 times a day from different accounts, amounts from 20 to 80,000 bits. Why so often? I asked on Telegram. Expanding operations. Your channel has performed well. You are now one of the key partners. Key partners. It sounded important, but I started to worry about some of the details. Firstly, all donator accounts were created recently. No subscriptions, no history, no communication with other streamers. Secondly, the amounts were too round. Exactly 25, 40, 60,000 bits. Nobody donates in even numbers. Usually it's 23, 47, or 5,683 random amounts. Thirdly, all messages to donations were standard. Great game. Keep going. For yesterday's stream. Not a single personalized comment. On the 25th of May, I shared my doubts on Telegram. Donator accounts look suspicious. All new, no history. Responded quickly. These are technical accounts. We work with international clients who can't use normal bank transfers, political restrictions, sanctions, currency regulation issues. And they're buying bits to circumvent the restrictions? Exactly. Twitch accepts payments from pretty much everywhere. And through you, we convert to cryptocurrency and send it to the right jurisdictions. A completely legal international payment scheme. It sounded plausible. In 2021, many companies were indeed looking for ways to circumvent bank restrictions through cryptocurrencies. And why exactly through streamers? Streamers receive donations officially. It's a normal activity. No one suspects anything strange about big bits from viewers. On the 1st of June, they offered a new condition, ready to take more responsibility. We can raise the commission to 30%, but you'll need help with technical issues. What technical issues? Setting up wallets, teaching other streamers our system. You already understand the process better than most. Other streamers? So I wasn't the only one. How many people are working on this scheme? We have about 50 streamers in our network from different countries. You are one of the most reliable partners. 50 streamers. If everyone gets donations like I do, they have millions of dollars a month going through their system. Do you want to meet the coordinator? They suggested. Voice call in Discord, discuss development plans. On the 15th of June, I spoke for the first time with a person from their team. A middle-aged man's voice, slight accent, possibly Eastern European. You're doing good work, he said without greeting. But are you ready for serious business? What's considered serious? 100 to 200,000 bits a day, sometimes more. Your commission will be from $600 a day. That's more than most people earn in a month. But there's a condition, no questions asked, no delays. You get a donation, you transfer it within an hour. We work 7 days a week. What if I have exams or tournaments? Exams don't cancel business. You'll find the time. The tone was harsh, but the numbers were mesmerizing. $600 a day, and that's the minimum. You could buy a flat in a year. I agree, I said. Since the 20th of June, a new life started. Every day, including weekends, I received donations from 80 to 250,000 bits. I transferred crypto to dozens of different addresses, worked with 5 exchanges simultaneously. My daily income was between 800 and 1,500 quid. In 1 month, I made $31,000. For the first time in my life, I felt rich. I rented a 1-bedroom flat in the city center, bought a car, told my parents I'd signed a contract with a major cyber sports organization. But the work was grueling. Every 3 hours, new donations were coming in. I had to interrupt streamings, leave games, wake up at night for transfers. The system works around the clock, they explained to me during another call. The money doesn't sleep. By the end of July, I was transferring between 150 and 200,000 a week. The commission was between 30,000 and 40,000, but I started to worry about some details. Firstly, the wallet addresses were constantly changing. New ones every day, never repeated. Secondly, when I checked a few addresses on Blockchain Explorer, I saw warnings. The address is flagged by exchanges as high risk and suspicious activity link detected. On the 1st of August, I asked in a chat room, why do addresses change all the time, and why are some labeled as suspicious by the exchanges? It's common practice for international transfers, I was told. We change addresses for security, and the exchanges are reinsuring themselves, flagging any large transactions. But Binance explicitly wrote link to fraudulent activity on one of the addresses. False positives. Exchange algorithms are imperfect, often confusing legitimate transactions with fraud. But doubts were growing. Why change addresses every day if these are legal international settlements? Reading the news this morning, I came across a post, Twitch's biggest data leak ever. The earnings of thousands of streamers over the past 2 years have been published. I opened the list and found my channel. $2 million in bits. Was that the amount that went through my channel? In 10 months, from accounts with no history for the so-called investment fund. And then I realized that I had never asked the ultimate question. Where did they get so much money for bits? 3 million. That number had been on my mind all day. I sat in front of my computer looking at the Twitch leak data and trying to understand the scale. More money had passed through my little channel in 10 months than most people see in a lifetime. My earnings totaled $847,000, but it was only a commission of 25 to 30%. But the main question kept coming up. Where did they get so much money? Twitch bits are bought with real money from bank cards. $3.2 million is not the pocket money of a rich businessman. It's a serious amount of money that you have to get somewhere. I started looking for information on fraud schemes through Twitch. The very first article made me go cold. How scammers use stolen credit cards to buy bits on Twitch. I read the material twice. The scheme was simple and logical. Scammers get stolen credit card data. They buy bits with them in large quantities. Donate bits to streamers who return some of the money in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is untraceable and impossible to recover. The streamer becomes a participant in laundering money from stolen cards. I opened the following article. Turkish pro gamers admit to participating in a money laundering scheme via Twitch. The description was exactly the same as my situation. Scammers used stolen credit card details to buy bits, then donated them to streamers. Streamers returned 80% of the amount in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. My heart was racing. I realized that I had spent the last 10 months helping to turn money from stolen credit cards into pure cryptocurrency. 3.2 million stolen dollars. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people who discovered unknown charges on their cards. Families who lost their savings. Pensioners who have had their pensions stolen. And I got 25% on every transaction. I imagined all the people whose cards might have been stolen. Maybe there was a single mother saving for her child's medical treatment, or a grandfather who was saving to buy presents for his grandchildren, or a student like me who worked nights to pay for his studies. They were all robbed, and I helped the thieves cover their tracks. Nausea rose to my throat. I got up from the computer and went to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. When did I become a thief? In the evening, a message arrived in Telegram. Tomorrow we work as usual. Prepare your wallets. As usual. That meant thousands more in stolen money. Another commission to help launder the stolen goods. I stared at that message for a long time. The usual. But now I knew what was behind those words. Someone's stolen savings that would turn into my cryptocurrency. I can't make it tomorrow. I'm sick, I wrote. Businesses don't get sick. Find a replacement or work through a fever. Seriously ill for a few days. The reply came an hour later. I see, get well soon. The surgeries are piling up. For the next 3 days, I didn't respond to messages. I thought about what to do next. On the one hand, money, which completely changed my life. A flat, a car, equipment, independence from my parents. The opportunity to concentrate on cybersport without thinking about earning money. On the other side is the realization that every dollar in my pocket has been stolen from innocent people. I imagined some grandmother checking her card balance and seeing that her pension had disappeared. How a family had planned a holiday, and instead is dealing with the bank trying to recover what was stolen, and I've made a decision. Withdrawing from the project, I wrote on Telegram. The answer came quickly, temporarily or permanently, forever. Think again. You've got a good income, a well-established scheme. Why ruin it? I don't want to participate anymore. They spent the next 2 days trying to change my mind. They promised me special projects with even bigger profits. You can make $100,000 a month, they wrote. Why turn down such an opportunity? But I've already made up my mind. On the 26th of August, I wrote a final message. Thanks for your cooperation, but I'm definitively out. Good luck. The answer was short. Your choice. Delete all correspondence and forget our contacts. And remember, you were part of the scheme too. The last phrase sounded like a threat, but I knew they were right. Technically, I was also breaking the law by helping to launder stolen money. I deleted all chats in Telegram, cleared my browser history, reformatted my computer. I closed any unnecessary wallets on exchanges. But the money I made remains. $847,000 in cryptocurrency. Money received for helping me launder stolen funds. For weeks I couldn't touch it. Every time I saw the balance, I thought of the victims, the people from whom the money had been stolen. In the end, I made a decision that I was able to move on with. Spent a third of the money on charity. I found funds to help victims of cybercrime and anonymously transferred $280,000 to them. This did not return the money to the specific victims, but at least it helped other people in similar situations. I gave another third to my parents. I said I had a big sponsorship contract and I wanted to help my family. My father was able to pay off the loan on the flat. I spent the remaining third on education and development. I went to a private university for a cyber sports program, bought high-quality equipment, and began to seriously train with coaches. But most importantly, I never accepted easy money again. It's been more than 2 years since I left the circuit. During this time, I've really become a professional player. I signed a contract with a Tier 2 team. I participate in international tournaments. I earn honestly, although much less than before. But I sleep well knowing that my money has not been stolen from other people. Sometimes I see news reports about arrests of participants in money laundering schemes via Twitch. Every time I think, what if some of them are people I worked with? No one's been looking for me yet. Perhaps I was too small a fish in their ocean of stolen money. Or maybe my cooperation with the police wasn't needed. The scheme was uncovered by other means. I recently saw an interview with one of the victims of such a scheme. A woman in her 50s told me how $15,000 had been stolen from her card. Everything she had saved for her husband's treatment. The worst part was realizing that this money helped someone else live a better life, she said. While we were selling our car to pay for the hospital, someone was buying a new life with our savings. I turned off the video and sat in silence for a long time. This woman could have been one of those whose money had passed through my channel. 3.2 million. Numbers that changed my life, but behind every dollar was someone else's pain, someone else's stolen dreams. As I tell this story now, I am ashamed of those months when I turned a blind eye to the obvious, when greed was stronger than conscience. I'm not trying to justify my actions. At 19, I was old enough to realize that when money is offered too easily, it means that someone somewhere is paying a real price for it. $847,000. That's how much I made off of other people's grief, and I'll never forget that figure. This story was posted by user guest 404 in the Dark Stories forum on the 15th of December 2023. Several people wrote that they recognized in the description the schemes their fellow students had fallen into. One commenter said that his younger brother also started receiving suspiciously large donations on the stream, but refused to cooperate in time. According to Europol, the number of money laundering schemes through stolen credit cards and streaming platforms has increased by 340% over the past 3 years. The average age of the participants is between 18 and 24. Most of them do not even realize that they are helping to launder money from stolen cards of ordinary people. The internet is full of offers of easy money for students and young professionals. Cryptocurrency schemes, online transfers, so-called investments. You can only check the real nature of this money when it is too late. If this story made you think, share it with others who may be in a similar situation. Maybe someone's future can still be changed. Remember, there is no such thing as easy money. Behind every large sum of money that comes without explanation is someone else's pain. As always, you're Mr. Dark Web. $4.2 million over 3 years of carding. Does that sound impressive? It's actually pennies compared to what my former colleagues were making. I stole more money in 4 years than most people make in a lifetime, and nobody's ever caught me. All that matters in our business is results and reputation. And yes, I'm done. I've saved enough to live the rest of my life in peace. But I'm sick of films about cool hackers and black hoodies who become millionaires overnight. I'll show you how it really works. I'll start at the beginning. December 2019. I'm 19, studying at the second year of the local technical school, specializing in programming. I live with my mother in a Khrushchevka apartment on the outskirts of the city. My father is gone. He left when I was 7. My mother works as a cleaner in a shopping center for $30,000 a month. The problem started when my mother was diagnosed with a cyst in her kidney. The operation was paid for, 380,000 rubles plus rehabilitation, medication. In general, money that we never had and never could have. I knew how to program, self-taught since I was 14 years old. Python, JavaScript, a little C++. I freelanced on small things, landings for local businesses, simple Telegram bots. At most, I was able to make $40,000 a month. I had to save up for the operation for 2 years. The 21st of December 2019, Sunday. I remember the date exactly because on this day I received a message in Telegram from an unfamiliar user at easy_money_tg. Saw your work with bots. Got some interesting work to do. You can earn more in an hour than you would in a month of freelancing. At first I thought it was a scam, but a user sent me a link to his channel. 2,000 subscribers, regular posts about testing payment systems and checking the security of online shops. Nothing criminal at first glance. In the comments, people bragged about their earnings. Yesterday, 40K. This month already 200 plus. I wrote to him in a private message. He replied quickly, "We are testing foreign sites for vulnerabilities in the payment system. We buy goods on test cards, check if the payment has been made. You only need to write a script to automate purchases." It sounded almost legal, the key word being almost. But the $380,000 for the surgery outweighed the doubt. The first task arrived on the 23rd of December, a text file with 50 card numbers, CVV codes, and expiry dates. Check on the website of any European online shop. I'll give you 20 quid for each working card. I created a simple script in Python using Selenium. I automatically went to the site of a German electronics shop, added a cheap item worth 10 euros to the basket, reached the payment page and entered the card details. If the payment went through, the card was alive. If it was rejected, dead. Out of 50 cards, 23 of them worked. 460 quid into my cryptocurrency wallet. I earned more in 2 hours of work than I did in a month of freelancing. That's when I realized that it wasn't the test cards that I was testing. But I couldn't stop. A week later, another assignment came. Then another. By February 2020, I was already earning $2,000, $3,000 a month, just checking maps and sometimes refining scripts for other channel members. In March, a man with a nickname I won't mention wrote to me. Let's just call him Curator. He suggested that I move to a more serious level. "You are working well. There is an offer to join our group. The income will be different." I had already saved up for my mother's operation, but the excitement and money were dragging me down. I said yes, and that's when the real story began. The first assignment from the new group seemed like child's play. It only seemed child's play for the first 5 minutes. On the 7th of April 2020, the curator sent me an encrypted archive with a password. Inside was not a text file with maps, but a whole folder of materials. Dumps of databases of 3 German banks, scripts for bypassing 3D Secure, instructions for setting up VPN chains, and a list of 2,000 cards, with balances from 5 to 50,000 euros. "Welcome to Real Carding," the curator wrote. "Your task is to automate purchases from the top 10 European online shops, orders to drop addresses in Berlin, Frankfurt, and Munich. Percentage on turnover is 15. I realized I was in a completely different league. This was not artisanal card checking, but industrial carding. The group consisted of 4 people. The curator coordinated operations and supplied the map databases. The technician was in charge of hacking sites and bypassing defenses. The logistician managed a network of dropshippers across Europe. And I became the 4th, the programmer who automates the whole process. Spent the first week studying the materials. I realized that my previous scripts were kindergarten. Here I had to imitate the behavior of a real user. Random pauses between actions, different user-agent browsers, rotation of IP addresses via VPN, even imitation of mouse movements. Launched the first test on the 14th of April. Swiss online electronics shop. I ordered an iPhone 11 Pro in the amount of 1,200 euros. The card went through, the order was confirmed. 3 days later, a technician from Zurich received the parcel and resold the phone. My share, 180 euros. By May 2020, I was processing up to 50 orders a day. My script worked around the clock, buying goods from German, French, Swiss shops, technology, clothes, cosmetics, anything as long as it was easy to resell. That's when I learned about the real geography of transactions. The cards were bought mainly in the US and Canada, where banks are slower to react to suspicious transactions. Drops worked all over Europe. Students in Berlin, immigrants in Paris, unemployed people in Madrid. Everyone got a percentage, but most didn't even realize they were involved in laundering stolen money. In the summer of 2020, my monthly income reached $8,000, $10,000. I rented a normal flat in the center, bought myself a MacBook Pro, paid for my mother's surgery and rehabilitation in a private clinic. But most importantly, I realized how the modern carding machine works. This is not the romance of lone hackers, but a real business with a clear division of labor. The curator bought bases from other groups or ordered hacks into specific banks. The technician provided the technical side, bypassing defenses, phishing sites, fake documents to register dropships. The logistician coordinated couriers around the world, and programmers like me automated the process to industrial scale. By the autumn of 2020, we had 12 programmers in our group. Each one handled a different sector. Someone specialized in Germany, someone in France, someone in the Scandinavian countries. A technician created a whole infrastructure. Proxy servers in 20 countries, virtual machine farms, automatic IP change systems. In December 2020, the curator showed me the year-end report. The total turnover of the group was 8.3 million euros. Net profit after all expenses for dropships, technical infrastructure, and base purchases was 6.7 million. My cut, $127,000 for 8 months of work. But then I realized that this was only the beginning. The curator talked about plans for 2021. The transition to corporate cards, the automation of phishing through AI, and the creation of our own network of botnets for data collection. Next year, we plan to fully enter the American market, he told me on New Year's Eve. There's a whole different kind of money there. When I saw the real numbers of the US market, I realized we're in a whole different league. $47 million. That's the turnover our group's US operations showed for the 2021 year. By comparison, the entire European segment generated 8.3 million in the same period. The American market was 5 times more profitable. The difference was not only in scale, but also in approach. In Europe, we worked with ordinary consumer cards, limits of 5,000 euros, goods for the mass market. In the USA, the curator focused on the corporate segment. On the 15th of January 2021, he showed me a new database. 800 corporate cards of American companies with limits ranging from 50 to 500,000 quid. One purchase can get you more than a month's work in Europe, he explained. But the technical complexity grew by multiples. Corporate cards had multi-stage protection, SMS confirmations to CFOs' e-phones, email notifications to corporate mail, additional checks for purchases over $10,000. The group's technician developed a system of circumvention through phishing attacks. We created fake letters from banks asking people to confirm their card information to update the security system. People entered their own data on our lookalike sites. But the real breakthrough came in May 2021, when a technician began using neural networks to generate phishing emails. The AI analyzed the correspondence style of specific banks and created emails that were almost impossible to distinguish from real ones. My task became more complex. Now it was not just to automate purchases, but to create full-fledged systems for working with corporate payments, simulating the behavior of company employees, buying B2B goods, working with suppliers of hardware and software. First major transaction, the 23rd of June 2021. Bought $180,000 worth of IBM server hardware from a Seattle tech company's corporate card. The servers were sent to a fictitious company in Miami, from where the drop resold them to South America. My share, $9,000, 2% of the deal. By the end of 2021, I was processing corporate purchases of up to 300,000 quid at a time. Apple tech for startups, servers for IT companies, medical equipment for clinics. The geography of dropshipping expanded: Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Houston, Miami. But the larger the amounts became, the more I started to get annoyed with the share distribution. The supervisor took 60% of each operation. The technician got 20%. The logistician got 15%. I got 5%, although it was my scripts that ensured 80% of successful purchases. You get a percentage of turnover, not risk-taking, the curator explained when I raised the issue of renegotiating the share. But I was the one taking the risks. My servers, my scripts, my IP, and the shop logs. If the operation had failed, I'd have been the first to be found out. In December 2021, my income was 67,000 quid. That sounds good, but it was only 2.8% of the group's total profit of 2.4 million for the month. The final straw was the operation on the 8th of February 2022, corporate card for a Boston-based pharmaceutical company, $750,000 limit, ordered 420 grand worth of medical equipment for a hospital in Texas. The surgery went perfectly. Total group profit, 357,000 quid after deducting resale value. Handler's share, 214,200. My share, $17,850. I created the entire technical scheme of the operation. My script bypassed the 3 layers of corporate card security. I coordinated with the drop in Texas, and I got less than 5%. On the 14th of March 2022, I wrote to the curator, I want to renegotiate the terms of cooperation. I want 20% on transactions. The answer came an hour later. The terms remain the same. If you don't like it, you can leave. On the morning of the 15th of March 2022, I sent my curator one last message and started a whole new game. First solo order, iPhone 13 Pro Max for 1,200 quid from an American card. Delivery to Russia by regular post. On the 18th of March 2022, the parcel arrived, and 2 days later I sold the phone for 85,000 rubles. Net profit, $1,050. For one order, I earned as much as I used to get from 10 operations in the group. I worked cautiously for the first few months. I was testing a scheme for delivering goods directly to Russia. It turned out that the majority of American online retailers can safely send orders to Russia. The main thing is to use cards from the same region as your IP address when ordering. By the summer of 2022, I had worked out a clear scheme. I bought American and European cards with balances from $5,000 to $50,000. He ordered Apple and Samsung equipment, game consoles, expensive watches, jewelry. Everything was delivered to Russia to addresses of fake persons. But the main discovery happened in June. I realized that the Russian market is much more profitable than the European or American markets. Some goods in Russia cost 1.5 to 2 times as much as in the USA. An iPhone for $1,000 easily sells for 90,000 rubles. A MacBook Pro for 2,500 quid goes for 250,000. Plus, there are no intermediate dropshippers who take their percentage. In July 2022, he earned 43,000 bakos. In August, 61,000, September, 78. But some goods were not marketable in Russia. Specific medical equipment, professional equipment for recording studios, rare collector's items. For such orders, we had to organize a small network of dropshippers. I found one person in Berlin, a student from Ukraine, who agreed to receive parcels for €200 each. In the USA, I hooked up a guy from Los Angeles, an immigrant from Mexico, who worked for £300 a parcel. The scheme became universal. Mass equipment was ordered to Russia, specific goods, through a European or American dropship with subsequent resale on international sites. In October 2022, there was a qualitative leap. I started using neural networks not only for phishing, but also for market analysis. The AI was trained to analyze the prices of goods in different countries and automatically find the most profitable positions for resale. The algorithm scanned American shops, compared prices with Russian marketplaces, and produced a list of goods with the maximum margin. The result exceeded expectations. The AI found goods with a price difference of up to 300%. A projector for $3,000 in the USA was sold in Russia for 350,000 rubles. A professional mixing console for 8,000 quid in Russia for 900,000 rubles. By the end of 2022, I was processing up to 30 orders a day fully automatically. My scripts themselves found favorable goods, ordered them from stolen cards, tracked delivery, and even placed sale ads on Russian marketplaces. December 2022, $127,000 in revenue. In 1 month, I earned as much as I had earned in the group for a whole year. 2023 was the peak year. I fully automated the process and expanded the geography. I added Canadian and Australian cards, where banks are even slower to react to suspicious transactions. I started working with the luxury segment, Rolex watches, Hermes bags, diamond jewelry. Jewelry gave the highest margins. A Tiffany ring for $15,000 could easily be sold in Moscow for $1.5 million rubles. A Patek Philippe watch for 8,000 quid went for 10 million. In March 2023, for the first time in a month, it exceeded 300,000. In June, already 380,000. In September, he set a personal record, 447,000 quid. But technology didn't stand still either. By mid-2023, banks began to massively implement AI systems for fraud detection. We had to constantly improve the methods of circumvention. Developed a system of warm purchases. At first, small legitimate purchases were made from a stolen card over a 2-3 week period. Coffee at Starbucks, groceries at the supermarket, Netflix subscriptions. Bank algorithms got used to the activity and the card became trusted. Only then was a large order placed. The system worked perfectly. In 2024, he started using deepfake technologies to bypass video verification. Some banks required confirmation of large purchases via video call. My algorithms generated a video of the cardholder's face, synthesized from a photo from social networks. The peak was the operation on the 14th of August, 2024. A collection of Patek Philippe watches from a private gallery in New York. 12 pieces totaling $1.2 million. All paid for from the corporate card of the art fund, sold in Russia for 140 million rubles. My profit, 980,000, almost $1 million per transaction. By the end of 2024, the total amount passed through my schemes was 4.2 million. Net profit of 3.7 million quid. I bought a flat, a house, invested in cryptocurrency and property in Dubai. I was officially a sole proprietor engaged in IT consulting. In November 2024, I decided to quit. I had saved enough to live the rest of my life without working. Banks were getting smarter and the risks were growing. But most importantly, I was tired of what was going on around me. In May 2024, one message on Telegram turned the whole... Over the last few months, I've been stumbling across YouTube videos and films about hackers more and more often. Top 10 richest Carters, how to make millions. Millions of views, thousands of comments from guys who dream of becoming cool hackers in black hoodies. It's the same picture everywhere. The romance of the hacker movement, the fight against the system, the redistribution of wealth. They show tough guys in hoodies who supposedly earn 10 million a year and live in the Maldives. And it's really starting to piss me off because I know how things really work. In 4 years in this field, I've seen enough to know that there is no romance there. Only dirt, greed, and betrayal. You want the truth? Here it is. You remember my sponsor? the one who took 60% of the surgeries? In August 2022, I found out he screwed a group tech out of $180,000. He just didn't pay his share of a major operation and blocked him from all messengers. The technician worked with him for 3 years, developing systems to bypass the defenses, risking his freedom. But when the time came to divide the big money, nobody needed him. 6 months later, the same technician was screwed by another group, this time for $240,000. In 2023, I worked with a group that specialized in pensioners' cards. They bought databases with card data of people over 70 and updated their pensions. Average amount stolen, $800 to $2,000. Pennies for us, less money for them. When I asked the curator if he felt sorry for the old people, he said, "They're going to die soon anyway, and we need the money now." Over 200 dropsies in different countries have gone through my schemes. Do you know how many of them got out of trouble with the law? 0. Everyone was caught sooner or later. Students received suspended sentences and deportation. Immigrants went to jail for 2-3 years. Drug addicts who were used as couriers got full sentences because they could not hire proper lawyers. And we found new ones. There were always desperate people willing to do anything for a quick buck. 90% of carders don't know how to program. They buy ready-made scripts on forums, use other people's tools, and work according to schemes they have been sold. There are only a few real technicians. The rest are common scammers who have learned to use ready-made tools. No fighting the system, just stealing. In 4 years, I made $3.7 million. I bought property, cars, invested in cryptocurrency. But every day lived in fear. Every doorbell could be the police. Every message was a threat from competitors or ditched partners. He had no friends. You don't make friends in this field, you only use them. I hid my family from everyone. My mother still thinks I made my money from IT consulting. By 2024, I realized I had enough. I had accumulated enough to live in peace. But you can't just disappear. Know too much about too many people. Have seen those who tried to leave get offers that can't be refused. One guy who decided to quit in 2023 was found beaten up in the entrance a month after quitting. They broke both arms and said, "If you want to talk to the police, we'll find you anywhere." So I left quietly. I gradually minimized operations, transferred money to safe assets, and prepared for complete disappearance. Last transaction, the 12th of November 2024. Bought a batch of iPhone 16 Pro for $47K, sold it in Russia for 4.2 million rubles. Never touched another stolen card again. But why am I telling you all this? Not out of a desire to save or re-educate anyone. I'm just sick of films and commercials about cool hackers in black hoodies. Carding is not romantic. It is a dirty business, where people screw each other for pennies, use the desperate as expendable material, and steal the last money from pensioners. In general, I believe that carding is close to the drug business in its essence. Do you want to become rich? Learn programming? Create startups? Trade on the stock exchange? Any legal way of earning money is better than living in constant fear and being surrounded by such people. And if you do decide to get into carding after my story, do not say later that you were not warned. I found this story on one of the closed forums on the Darknet 5 months ago. The post was published by user PY23 in March 2025 and gained over 500 comments. Most commentators confirmed the details described in the story. The technical aspects of using AI and carding and schemes for working with the Russian market were particularly actively discussed. That confirms the fact that all described technologies exist and are actively used. Amounts and scales of transactions correspond to the data from open sources on modern carding. What was particularly striking was the complete lack of romance in the story. No fighters against the system or digital Robin Hoods, only cold calculation, greed, and betrayal. The story of PY23 shows the real underside of what films and commercials present as cool hacker romance. Behind the pretty picture lies ordinary crime, where people screw each other over for money, and the weakest people pay for everything. The work with pensioners and the use of desperate people as drop-ins is particularly cynical. All these partners and colleagues sooner or later end up behind bars, while the organizers remain in the shadows. I don't know where PY23 is now, and whether he watches my channel, but his story is the best warning for those who are thinking about easy money on the Darknet. Reality always turns out to be dirtier than the beautiful stories from the internet. I would also like to remind you that all the actions described in the story are offenses under the criminal laws of most countries in the world. Carding, bank card fraud, money laundering, and the use of front men entail serious criminal liability, from heavy fines to imprisonment for up to 10 years. As the author of the channel, I categorically do not recommend anyone to engage in such activities and insist that it is unacceptable. Sooner or later, any criminal scheme leads to dire consequences: arrest, imprisonment, and ruined lives. This story is published for educational purposes only, to show the real risks and consequences of criminal activity on the internet. Remember, no amount of money is worth lost freedom and a ruined future. If this story made you think, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories from the dark corners of the internet ahead, which will show you the world unvarnished. In the meantime, take care, and remember, fast money always costs too much. Disappearing with $4 billion and going unpunished is fantastic, especially in a world where every crypto transaction is recorded forever on the blockchain. But Amir and Rice Kaji did the impossible. They cracked not the code, but human greed. My name is Mr. Dark Web, and today I'm going to tell you a story that has changed the perception of what ordinary teenagers with internet access can do. The story begins in the year 2019 in South Africa, where two brothers, 17-year-old Amir and 20-year-old Rice Kaji, lived the ordinary life of a poor African family. But in their heads, a plan was already brewing that would shake the entire crypto world in 2 years. Imagine, you are a teenager from a poor family, living in a country with high unemployment and limited opportunities. All around you are millions of people dreaming of financial freedom. And every day on the internet, there is news about how cryptocurrencies make people millionaires literally overnight. This is exactly the picture the Kaji brothers saw in 2019-19. And it was then that they had an idea that seemed crazy. What if they created a platform that would automatically trade bitcoins and bring people a stable profit? In February 2019 was born AfriCrypt, a cryptocurrency platform that promised investors something they could only dream of. The brothers positioned it as a revolutionary service that used artificial intelligence to automatically trade bitcoins. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? But the most impressive thing was in the numbers. AfriCrypt promised investors 10% profit per day. Think about this figure, 10% every day. This meant that if you invested $1,000 in a month, you would receive more than $17,000. And in 2 months, almost $300,000. I must admit that from a marketing point of view, the scheme was brilliant. The Kaji brothers understood the psychology of their countrymen like no one else. In a country where the average salary was a few $100s a month, the promise of such income sounded like music. But how did two unknown teenagers convince people to trust them with their savings? This is where the most interesting part of the story begins. The first thing the brothers did was to create an impressive website with a professional design. It featured complex charts, technical terms, and, of course, a description of a unique AI algorithm that supposedly analyzed the market 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and made profitable trades. It looked convincing to most people. Beautiful graphics, scientific terms, promises of future technologies, all this created an aura of seriousness and innovation. But the real breakthrough came when celebrities got involved in AfriCrypt's publicity. South African rapper Nastia C, footballer Benny McCarthy, and even Hollywood star Charlize Theron have all appeared in one way or another in the platform's promotional materials. Moreover, even members of the ruling African National Congress Party, have shown public interest in the project. Imagine how much weight it carried for ordinary people. If stars and politicians believe in the project, it must be really serious, right? Aggressive marketing was doing its job. Stories spread throughout South Africa of people doubling and tripling their savings thanks to AfriCrypt. The word of mouth worked perfectly. Each satisfied customer brought in new investors. By the end of 2019, AfriCrypt had become a phenomenon. Thousands of South Africans, from ordinary laborers to wealthy businessmen, invested their money in the Kaji Brothers platform. But the most striking thing about this story is not how quickly AfriCrypt's popularity grew. The most striking thing is that the brothers were buying luxury cars, expensive property, and living the lifestyle of millionaires right in front of their investors. Amir and Rais did not hide their sudden wealth. On the contrary, they flaunted it as proof of the effectiveness of their system. After all, if the creators themselves become millionaires thanks to their algorithm, it means that it really works. The logic was ironclad. Investors saw the result and wanted the same for themselves. By the beginning of the year 2020, the platform had attracted tens of thousands of customers across South Africa. Money was flowing. AfriCrypt was processing millions of dollars worth of transactions every month. Everything looked like the story of a perfect startup. Two young geniuses created a revolutionary technology, attracted investment, and are now changing the world of finance. But, as you may have guessed, there was one very big but to this tale. None of the investors knew what was really happening with their money. No one knew that behind the beautiful facade of a high-tech platform, there was a completely different reality. A reality that turned AfriCrypt into one of the most audacious financial scams in the history of cryptocurrencies. And it is this hidden side of the story that we will talk about now. Imagine you are an AfriCrypt investor. Every day you log in and see your Bitcoins growing. 10% in a day, as promised. Beautiful charts show successful trades. The algorithm works flawlessly. You're happy. You finally found a way to get rich. But what if I told you that all those charts were fake? That there were no trades? That your money never even left the Kaji Brothers' wallet? Welcome to the reality of AfriCrypt. Behind the beautiful facade of a high-tech platform was one of the oldest fraudulent schemes in the history of finance, a Ponzi scheme. Named after the Italian swindler Charles Ponzi, this scheme works on a simple principle. Money from new investors is used to pay off old investors. No AI algorithm existed. There was no automated trading. All those impressive charts on the AfriCrypt website were drawn manually or generated by simple scripts. Admittedly, the Kaji brothers modernized the classic scheme to suit the realities of the cryptocurrency world. When an investor transferred his bitcoins to the AfriCrypt address, they went directly into the brothers' personal wallets rather than into the trading algorithm. Imagine the scale of this scam. Thousands of people sent their cryptocurrencies every day thinking they were participating in a revolutionary trading program. But in reality, they were just feeding two teenagers who were spending that money on a life of luxury. But the most ingenious part of the scheme was not how the brothers stole the money. The most ingenious part was how they convinced people that there was no theft. Remember how Amir and Rais bought expensive cars and property? That wasn't mere bragging. It was a top-class psychological operation. Seeing the wealth of the platform's creators, investors thought, if they themselves got rich thanks to their algorithm, then I can too. The brothers' luxurious life served as living proof of AfriCrypt's effectiveness. But how did the brothers know when to stop? How did they realize that the pyramid was about to collapse? This is where the most interesting part of the story begins. By the end of the year 2020, the size of AfriCrypt had reached critical mass. The platform was processing tens of thousands of bitcoins, and the number of investors numbered in the tens of thousands. Any Ponzi scheme is doomed to failure. Sooner or later, new investors become insufficient to pay the old ones. And the KG brothers realized this perfectly well. That's why they started preparing for their disappearance long before April 2021. The first step was to become a citizen of the island nation of Vanuatu. This small Pacific nation is famous for two things: the ability to obtain a passport quickly for investment, and the absence of extradition treaties with most countries in the world. A few months before AfriCrypt collapsed, the Kaji brothers became full citizens of Vanuatu. They could not now be extradited to South Africa or any other country for prosecution, but citizenship was just the beginning. The real preparation took place in the digital world. The brothers started using Bitcoin mixers, special services that mix cryptocurrency from different sources, making it virtually untraceable. Imagine dropping your coin into a huge cauldron of millions of other coins, stirring and pulling out a random one. It becomes almost impossible to trace which coin was yours. The brothers converted part of their bitcoins into Monero, the world's most anonymous cryptocurrency. Unlike Bitcoin, where all transactions are recorded in an open blockchain, Monero hides information about the sender, the recipient, and the amount of the transfer. They transferred the other part into stable coins, cryptocurrencies pegged to the US dollar. This allowed them to protect themselves from fluctuations in the Bitcoin exchange rate and to withdraw money more easily into the traditional financial system. But the smartest move was to create a legend of a hacker attack. You see, if a crypto exchange just disappears, it immediately raises suspicions. But if an exchange falls victim to hackers, that's a different matter. In the world of cryptocurrencies, hacker attacks happen regularly, and the public is used to them. A few weeks before the staged attack, the brothers began gradually withdrawing funds from their main AfriCrypt wallets. This was done in small amounts so as not to attract the attention of automated blockchain monitoring systems. At the same time, they denied access to the company's financial systems to all employees except themselves. Officially, this was explained as strengthening security. But in reality, the brothers were simply eliminating witnesses. And so came the morning of the 13th of April in the year 2021. AfriCrypt customers woke up to find a shocking message on their email addresses. The platform was subjected to a large-scale cyber attack. All investor funds have disappeared. The website is down. The support team is silent. But the most interesting part was in the text of the letter. The KG brothers urged clients not to contact the police or lawyers. They reasoned that legal action could damage the platform's reputation and delay the recovery of funds. Imagine the audacity of stealing people's money and asking them not to complain. But for many investors, the letter was the last straw. They believed that the brothers had indeed fallen victim to hackers and were working to restore the platform. By the time AfriCrypt customers received this email, Amir and Reis Kaji were on their way to another country. They disappeared, taking with them 69,000 bitcoins worth about $4 billion. When worried investors arrived at AfriCrypt's Johannesburg office a few days later, they found an ordinary apartment block. No servers, no sign of a tech company, just empty rooms and the shattered dreams of thousands of people. The scheme was ingenious in its simplicity. Two teenagers defrauded the whole world, using not sophisticated technology, but simple human greed. But the story doesn't end there, because the most incredible thing about the AfriCrypt case is not how the brothers stole the money. The most incredible thing is what happened next, when the whole world started looking for them. When $4 billion disappear in a single day, the world is not indifferent. Within hours of receiving the hacker attack email, South African investors sprang into action. Some called the police, despite the brothers' pleas not to do so. Some sought legal advice. Some tried to find any trace of Amir and Rice on social media, but the brothers seemed to vanish into thin air. Honeycomb Attorneys, a law firm representing the interests of the affected investors, filed an official application with the South African police. Interpol became involved in the case and put the Kaji brothers on the international wanted list. Admittedly, it seems impossible to disappear in the 21st century, when your every move is tracked by cameras, bank cards, and mobile phones. But the brothers have prepared for this moment with German meticulousness. Passport and aviation control systems revealed a startling picture. The Kaji brothers had never officially crossed the borders of South Africa, at least not under their real names. This meant only one thing. They used forged documents or found a way to leave the country bypassing official controls. Investigators worked day and night combing through the brothers' digital footprints. Blockchain analysts tracked the movement of stolen bitcoins through dozens of wallets and mixers. International intelligence agencies checked every airport, every border. And then, 4 months after the disappearance, there was a breakthrough. In August 2021, Swiss investigators discovered a rented safe deposit box in a Zurich bank. It contained a Trezor Model T hardware cryptocurrency wallet, potentially containing some of the stolen funds. But the most interesting thing was not the wallet itself, but who put it there. The bank's surveillance cameras captured a young man renting a safe deposit box a few weeks before Africrypt collapsed. The facial recognition system gave a match. Amir Kaji. The Swiss authorities put the bank under surveillance and waited. And they waited. On the 9th of November 2021, Amir Kaji showed up at the bank to gain access to his safe deposit box. Perhaps he thought the Swiss bank's secrecy would protect him. Perhaps he was simply a victim of his own self-confidence. One way or another, the 17-year-old crypto Afro-genius was arrested that day. He was charged with money laundering. Amir spent 6 months in pretrial detention, refusing to cooperate with the investigation and refusing to disclose the location of the stolen funds. But the Swiss legal system proved more flexible than investigators expected. In May 2022, Amir was released on bail of 300,000 Swiss francs, about $375,000. The conditions were strict: surrender of his passport, a ban on leaving Switzerland, and regular police checks. For a man who stole $4 billion, that kind of bail was ridiculous. But the most interesting thing happened in parallel with Amir's arrest. In November of the year 2021, injured Africrypt investors received an unexpected offer. A mysterious investor offered them $5 million in compensation in exchange for dropping all claims against the Kaji brothers. $5 million against $4 billion in stolen funds. An insultingly small amount, but for many ruined investors it was at least some money. The investigators had no doubt the brothers themselves or their proxies were behind the offer. They tried to buy the silence of the victims while Amir was under investigation. A few hundred investors agreed to the deal. The rest continued to fight for justice. Meanwhile, Amir lived in Switzerland under the supervision of the authorities, playing the role of a repentant criminal. He regularly reported to the police, complied with all court orders, and even gave several interviews to local media, where he portrayed himself as a victim of circumstances. "I was young and stupid," he told reporters. "My older brother got me into this scheme, and I didn't realize all the consequences. But it was just a game." For 18 months, Amir waited patiently for his time. He knew that the Swiss authorities would sooner or later relax their control. All he had to do was wait for the right moment. And that moment came in August of the year 2023. The Swiss court, seeing Amir's exemplary behavior, decided to return his passport. Officially, this was explained by the need to resolve personal issues and prepare for the trial. In fact, it was a fatal mistake. The same day Amir got his passport back, he disappeared from Switzerland. Surveillance cameras picked him up at Zurich airport, but the trail went no further. $375,000 of bail remained in the Swiss bank. For Amir, it was just a trifle, the price of freedom. The second escape was even more daring than the first. Amir disappeared right from under the noses of the European security services, with all the necessary documents in hand. Where did he go? Unofficial sources named different versions: Dubai, Tanzania, Great Britain, but Amir's exact whereabouts remained a mystery. His brother, Rice, remained missing all this time. There had been no reliable information about his whereabouts since April 2021. By the year 2024, the AfriCrypt case had reached a dead end. The brothers had disappeared. The stolen bitcoins vanished into the maze of mixers and anonymous wallets. International investigative bodies continued their search, but without much result. 69,000 bitcoins, which were worth $4 billion in the year 2021, rose in value to $7.5 billion by the year 2024. The KG brothers became even richer without even touching their funds. But the most incredible thing about this story was not how cleverly the brothers escaped justice. The most incredible thing was what happened in the legal sphere. Because it turns out that stealing $4 billion and going unpunished in the 21st century is not only possible, it can be perfectly legal. And it is this shocking discovery that we will talk about next. How do you steal $4 billion and get away with it? The answer to this question turned out to be shockingly simple. You just need to find a legal loophole that no one will notice. And the Kaji brothers found that loophole. In 2024, as the international hunt for the brothers entered its third year, an event occurred that put an end to the AfriCrypt case. The South African Financial Supervisory Authority has released an official statement that shocked even seasoned lawyers and investigators. It turned out that AfriCrypt had never been registered as a financial institution in South Africa. The brothers positioned their platform as a technology company providing trading software rather than a financial institution. Sound like a technicality? It was actually an ingenious legal ploy. As AfriCrypt was not formally a financial organization, it was not subject to investor protection laws. Moreover, regulators had no legal basis to investigate its activities. Imagine the absurdity of the situation. A company has attracted $4 billion of investment, but it remains outside the jurisdiction of financial regulators. It would be like a bank operating without a license, but still outside the jurisdiction of banking supervision. The statement from the financial service was ruthless in its legal precision. As AfriCrypt was never registered as a financial organization, there is no legal basis for an investigation. No one can be held liable, and there are no rights to damages. With one document, thousands of victims have lost any hope of justice. Admittedly, the Kaji brothers' plan worked perfectly. They didn't just steal the money. They created a legal structure that made stealing it a formally non-criminal offense. 69,000 bitcoins, which were worth $4 billion in the year 2021, rose in value to $7.5 billion by the year 2024. The brothers became even richer without even touching their cryptocurrency wallets. Amir and Rice Kaji disappeared forever, leaving behind only the legend of the most audacious crypto affair in history. To understand the scale of their achievement, let's compare AfriCrypt to other major cryptocurrency scams. Canadian exchange Quadriga CX whose founder Gerald Cotton died under mysterious circumstances, has lost $162 million. Japan's Mt. Gox lost $460 million due to a hacker attack. The Poly network platform lost $610 million, but the hackers recovered the money. Turkish stock exchange Thodex and its founder Faruk Fatih Özer stole $2 billion, but Özer was caught and sentenced to 11,196 years in prison. And the KG brothers? They stole twice as much and got away with it. If AfriCrypt's loss amount is confirmed at $7.5 billion, that makes it the largest cryptocurrency heist in human history. But the AfriCrypt case is not just a story about stealing money. It is a story of how two teenagers from a poor African family outsmarted the entire international financial system. They showed the world that in the age of digital currencies and the global economy, you can steal billions and get away with it if you know how to circumvent the legal systems of different countries. AfriCrypt has come to symbolize the vulnerability of the modern financial system to technological innovation and legal loopholes. The story of the Kaji brothers taught the world a cruel lesson. In the world of cryptocurrencies, traditional laws are often powerless, and investor greed can be the most powerful weapon of fraudsters. Today, somewhere in the world, live two young men who, at 17 and 20, committed the perfect crime. They prove that sometimes the most audacious plans really do work. Amir and Rais Kaji are gone, but their story lives on. It has become a warning to investors and a headache for regulators. In a world where every transaction is recorded on the blockchain forever, the KG brothers managed to become invisible. In an era of total surveillance, they disappeared without a trace. They found a loophole in the international justice system that made them untouchable. $7.5 billion. Total impunity. The perfect 21st century crime. The story of AfriCrypt is over, but its effects will be felt for years to come. Because the Kaji brothers showed the world. If you are smart enough, bold enough, and know where to look for loopholes in the system, even the most fantastic scam can become a reality. And the worst part of this story isn't that two teenagers stole billions of dollars. The worst part is that they showed how it could be done. On the morning of the 14th of February 2023, I received a check for $2 million for a product that didn't exist. Investors from a Berlin venture fund were sure that they were investing in a revolutionary AI solution for document automation. In fact, behind the artificial intelligence were 36 Ukrainians and Belarusians who, for $4 an hour, manually processed documents in Excel spreadsheets. My name is Alex. It's not my real name, as well as many other details that I will change in this confession. But the essence will remain true to the last comma. I'm not going to lie about a difficult childhood or noble motives. From an early age, it was the forbidden world that attracted me. While my peers were playing football at the age of 8, I was already trying to crack the password to my parents' computer. Not out of necessity, but out of curiosity and a thirst for power. The first real hack happened in 2011, when I was 14. I lived in a small town on the border of two republics. I won't specify which ones. I'll just say that it was a typical post-Soviet reality. Factories were closed, there were few prospects, and the internet was not working properly. I hacked into the ISP's local network and got free access not only for myself, but for half the neighborhood. Not out of altruism, I just wanted to see if I could do it. When the ISP discovered this a month later, they didn't go to the police. Instead, they offered me a part-time job, fixing customers' computers for symbolic money. But I wasn't satisfied with that. The legal way seemed boring and slow. I received my first invitation to a closed forum in the winter of 2012. One of the older guys I occasionally crossed paths with in local channels sent me a link with the words, Your people are there. The name of the forum was rather banal, something like Digital Underground. But inside there was real life. Hundreds of participants discussed schemes, shared experiences, and warned of raids. There were sections on carding, phishing, social engineering, selling dumps, and money laundering. I started small, studying materials, asking questions. My first salary was $300 for a month of work with stolen bank card data. It was a lot of money for a 14-year-old from the provinces. By the time I was 16, I was already considered a member of the community. Not a top player, but a reliable performer. I specialized in social engineering. I could talk to bank operators and get the information I needed. My voice hadn't broken yet, which was a plus. Everyone took me for a student who had forgotten the password to his dad's card. By 2018, I realized that small-scale carding was a dead end. The sums are small, the risks are high, and most importantly, there is a constant need to hide. I started looking at more white schemes. It was then that a section dedicated to IT outsourcing appeared on the forum. It turned out that many members of the community worked in parallel as programmers in Western companies. Remotely, for pennies, but officially. Reading their stories, I was shocked. The guy under the nickname MySQL_God, who used to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on bank schemes, was now writing code for an American startup for $8 an hour. The girl Crypto Queen, a former crypto fraud star, was processing data for a German company for €5 an hour. Why? I asked MySQL_God in a private message. Tired of hiding, he replied. Want to sleep in peace. And the money's not so small if you work for several companies at the same time. I started researching the subject further. I found a gold mine of information. It turned out that the entire Western IT world was based on cheap labor from Eastern Europe, India, and the Philippines. Programmers from my region were writing code for startups in Berlin for the same price that German students used to buy pizza for dinner. But the most interesting part started when I started reading these guys' reports on their work. Been transferring data from one Excel spreadsheet to another all day today, wrote a guy called Soars. They think they have an automatic system, but in reality, I do everything by hand. Our AI bot needs help, complained Java Girl. I sit there and fix its mistakes, and customers think they're getting answers from artificial intelligence. Classifying documents using machine learning, Bashmaster sneered. I just read each document and sort them into folders manually. As I read these revelations week after week, month after month, I began to realize the scale of what was happening. Western companies were buying AI solutions that were really just cheap human labor wrapped up in a pretty wrapper. In the summer of 2021, an incident occurred that finally determined my fate. A thread from a member with the nickname Script Kitty appeared on the forum. He told how he got a job at a German startup that was developing a revolutionary system for processing invoices using neural networks. You guys won't believe this, he wrote. I'm the only one handling all their accounts, manually, in Excel, for €6 an hour, and they sell it to businesses for €20,000 a month as an AI solution. A discussion broke out in the comments. Some resented the exploitation, others advised to demand a raise. But I was thinking about something else. If one guy can simulate the work of a neural network for €6 an hour, a team of 30 such guys can simulate the work of a very powerful AI system and sell it for dozens of times the price. I was 24 years old. I had 10 years of working on the gray and black internet. I knew how to create convincing legends, how to bypass checks, how to build trust with people I'd never met before. Most importantly, I've seen how naive investors can be when it comes to artificial intelligence. On the evening of the 23rd of August 2021, I sat in my studio flat and sketched out the first plan. A page in a notebook that I later burned, but I remembered every word forever. Product: AI system for document flow automation, invoice processing, document classification, data extraction. Something complex enough that investors can't test it quickly, but understandable enough that they believe in the potential. Team: fake co-founders with convincing legends, LinkedIn profiles, scientific publications, work experience in large IT companies, all fake but well made. Technology: no real AI. Instead, a team of third-world execs who will manually do all the work. They will think they are working for a regular outsourcer, unaware that their labor is being sold as artificial intelligence. Geography, Europe, Berlin, or London. There are a lot of venture capital funds there that are actively investing in AI, but are less picky than in Silicon Valley. Amount: $1 to $3 million. Enough to change lives dramatically, but not so much that it attracts a lot of attention. The plan was audacious but feasible. I knew all the necessary tools, understood the psychology of potential investors, and had access to cheap labor. All that was left was to get started. I spent the next 6 months preparing. I studied the venture capital ecosystem, read deal reports, and analyzed successful cases of AI startups. I paid special attention to what questions investors were asking, what metrics they were interested in, what demos impressed them. At the same time, I started to create my new identity. Alexei Nikolaev, 28, a graduate of the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, former Yandex employee. 3 years working in DeepMind's London office, specializing in natural language processing. Moved to Berlin to start his own company. The biography turns out to be beautiful and verifiable, but only superficially. There are enough traces on the internet to believe, but not so many that one comes across contradictions. By February 2022, I had it ready to go. LinkedIn profile with 1,000 contacts, a page on the website of the former employer, several publications in scientific journals, profiles on GitHub with commit history for the last 3 years, photos from various IT conferences. Everything was fake. Everything looked completely real. But the main find was ChatGPT. On the 30th of November, 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public. The whole world went crazy about the possibilities of artificial intelligence. The media wrote that AI would replace half of the professions. Investors started throwing money at any startup that had the word AI in its name. It was a gift of fate. In the atmosphere of general hype, my plan became not just feasible, it became almost a win-win. I've accelerated my preparations. By January 2023, everything was ready. DocuMind is registered in Berlin. A team of 4 co-founders with impeccable CVs. A prototype system that actually did something, albeit a very simple one. And most importantly, a list of 12 venture capital funds that were potentially interested in our product. There was one last step to take. On the morning of the 7th of February 2023, I sent my first email. Dear colleagues, my name is Alexei Nikolaev. I am the founder of DocuMind, a startup that develops a revolutionary AI solution for document automation. Our technology is capable of processing any type of documents with 97.3% accuracy and 15 times faster than a human. We are raising a seed round of $2 million to scale the product and enter the US market. The letter turned out to be 4 paragraphs long. Not a word of lies unless you count the fact that our technology was actually a team of Ukrainian freelancers. Sent 12 letters to 12 foundations. The first reply came 40 minutes later. Hi Alex, that's a very interesting project. We are just looking for AI startups in your direction. Can you send us a pitch deck? If everything is good, we'll invite you to a presentation already this week. My hands shook with excitement. Game on. After the first response from the venture fund, I had less than a week to prepare a full presentation. Pitch deck is sacred to any startup, a first impression that can either open doors or close them forever. But the presentation itself was not enough. Investors always look at the team. We invest in people, not ideas, is the golden rule of venture capital. That's why I needed co-founders. The first one I created was Victoria Schmidt with German roots, a graduate of TU Berlin, former lead developer at SAP. She specializes in machine learning and big data processing. LinkedIn profile, photos from conferences, even a few interviews on technical blogs, all bought for bitcoins on specialized forums. Second was Marco Rossi, head of sales Italian, 5 years at Oracle, customer base across Europe. Charismatic, experienced, with impressive sales figures on his CV. The third was Daniel Cohen, a former Goldman Sachs analyst, MBA from INSEAD. He was the person who had to convince investors of the financial solvency of the project. It took $15,000 and 4 days of continuous work to create this trio. The result was impressive. Even I myself was beginning to believe in the existence of these people. In parallel with creating a fictitious team, I was assembling a real one, an army of performers who would mimic the work of the AI. Through old connections on forums, I found a coordinator, a guy called Taskmaster, who specialized in organizing remote teams for Western companies. I introduced myself to him as an ordinary startup who needed a team to process documents. It takes 30 people, I said. The work is simple: classifying documents, extracting data, filling out forms. Pay is $4 an hour, remote work, flexible hours. No problem, Taskmaster replied. I have proven people from Ukraine and Belarus. There is experience in working with documents. In 3 days, he assembled a team of 28 people. Students, housewives, freelancers, all those who were prepared to work for a little money, as long as they had a stable income. The most beautiful thing about this scheme was that they really thought they were working for a regular outsourcing company. No one knew that their labor would be sold as revolutionary artificial intelligence. The 11th of February 2023, Saturday, 10 a.m. Office of a venture capital fund in the center of Berlin, panoramic windows on Spree, minimalist design, coffee for €8 a cup. 3 people were sitting in the meeting room: Michael Braun, Anna Muller, and Thomas Weber. They had a combined investment experience of more than 50 deals and a combined portfolio size of €200 million. I was nervous, but I held myself with confidence. DocuMind solves a problem that every company in Europe faces, I began my presentation. Document processing takes up 40% of office workers' time. Our AI system reduces this time by a factor of 15, with an accuracy of 97.3%. I spent the next 45 minutes talking about the market, our unique technology, multi-layer neural networks, the team, 4 world-class experts, the metrics, 3,000 documents per hour per virtual employee. All the figures were real. I simply took the productivity of my team of Ukrainians and multiplied it by a coefficient. They really could process 3,000 documents per hour if they worked harmoniously. Impressive metrics, Michael said. And what are your main competitors? The main problem with the market is that most solutions are either simple OCR technology or systems without real machine learning, I replied, quoting an article I had read the day before. We are the first to apply a multi-model with deep context analysis. Anna nodded. What about the training data? That's a critical issue for AI, isn't it? We've compiled a database of 2.3 of a million marked up documents over the last 2 years. I lied without blinking an eye. I didn't actually have any data, but it sounded convincing. The presentation went smoothly. The investors asked the right questions. I gave the right answers. At the end, Michael said a phrase that I will always remember. Alex, I like your approach. The team is strong, the market is huge, the technology is differentiated. We are ready to discuss an investment. On the morning of the 13th of February, I received a letter with the preliminary terms of the investment. $2 million for 25% of the company, valuation of $8 million, standard terms for a seed round. I reread the letter 3 times, unable to believe my eyes. On the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, I signed the documents. The money arrived in DocuMind's corporate account the same day, $2 million for a product that didn't exist. But the joy didn't last long. A week later, Anna Muller wrote me a message that made my heart beat faster. Alex, congratulations on successfully closing the round. Our experts would like to see DocuMind in action. Can we organize a demo on real data as early as next week? We have several potential customers who are willing to be pilot testers. I looked at the screen and realized this is the most important moment. On the morning of the 22nd of February 2023, I realized that $2 million was not the end of the story, but only the beginning. The money was lying in a corporate account, investors were waiting for results, and I had in my hands a team of Ukrainians who thought they were working for a regular outsourcer. We needed to turn this group of people into a revolutionary artificial intelligence. The first thing I did was create DocuMind's internal order management system. Nothing complicated, a simple web interface where clients uploaded documents and my executors received tasks. But for clients, it looked like an AI control panel with all the buttons and graphs they needed. Taskmaster helped us to organize the workflow. We divided a team of 28 people into 3 shifts of 8 hours each. We had round-the-clock coverage, while the Ukrainians and Belarusians were sleeping in Europe. They were processing documents. For clients, it looked like a cloud-based AI system that never rests. I gave each performer clear instructions. The processing time per document should not be less than 3 minutes. If a person managed faster than that, he had to wait. Processing too quickly would give away manual work. No machine learning algorithm could work at the speed of an experienced accountant. By the end of February, the system was running like clockwork. The first real client was a small German consulting company, Schneider and Partners. Anna Mueller personally recommended them. 150 employees, tons of paperwork, and a willingness to pay 5,000 euros a month for automation. I met their CTO, Klaus Weber, at a cafe near their office. A solid man in his 50s, 20 years of IT experience, a healthy skepticism towards new technologies. Alex, to be honest, I've already seen dozens of startups that promise to revolutionize document processing, he said, stirring his coffee. What's your specialty? I pulled out my laptop and showed a demo of the system. I loaded a test invoice and pressed the process button. 4 minutes later, just the amount of time needed by the performer from the Ukrainian shift, the system produced the result. All the fields were extracted correctly, the data was structured, and it was ready to be exported to any accounting system. Impressive, Klaus admitted. And what's the machining accuracy? 97.3% on our test base, I replied, but it could be even higher for your documents. The system is trained on each new file. In fact, the accuracy was 100%. Humans make mistakes far less often than algorithms. But 100% accuracy would have looked suspicious. Klaus nodded. Okay, let's try it for a month. If everything works as promised, we'll move to an annual contract. By the end of March, we already had 5 clients. The total monthly income was 18,000 euros. The expenses for the team of performers were $4,000. The profitability is fantastic, the clients are happy, the investors are delighted. But that's when the first problem started. On the 3rd of April, Klaus Weber sent me a strange letter. Alex, I have a question about your system. We have noticed that it always takes 3 to 6 minutes to process documents, regardless of their complexity. A simple one-line invoice takes the same amount of time to process as a multi-page contract. Is this normal for an AI algorithm? I quickly came up with an explanation. Klaus, our system uses complex context analysis for each document. Even a simple invoice is checked against multiple patterns and rules. This guarantees high accuracy but requires a stable processing time. Klaus was satisfied with the answer, but I realized you have to add randomness to the processing time. Simple documents, 2 to 4 minutes, complex ones, 5 to 8 minutes. Mathematically, it looked more natural. A more serious problem arose in mid-April. One of our customers, the IT director of a logistics company, Frederick Schmidt, wanted to integrate our system with his corporate accounting program. For this purpose, he needed technical documentation on our software interface. I stalled for a fortnight, making excuses. I talked about the secrecy of the algorithms, about patent protection, about corporate security policy. But Frederick wouldn't let up. Alex, I don't need your algorithms, he said during the video call. I just need a schema of the data your system returns. Any serious IT company provides such documentation. As a result, I had to learn the basics of interface programming over a weekend and create a plausible technical documentation. It took me 30 hours, but the result was convincing. By May, our client base had grown to 12 companies. The monthly revenue was over 50,000 euros. I hired 20 more people and divided the team by specialization. Some handled invoices, others contracts, others non-standard documents. The system worked so well that I myself began to forget that it was a scam. Clients received quality service quickly and at a reasonable price. My performers were making honest money. Investors saw revenue growth and satisfied customer reviews. The only thing it didn't have was real artificial intelligence. But on the 18th of May, an event occurred that jeopardized the whole scheme. Anna Mueller called me at 10 in the morning. Alex, great news! One of our partners, a large German insurance company, is interested in your technology. They are ready to sign a contract for 200,000 euros a year. I got excited. That's fantastic, Anna. What do you need to do? "A small formality," she said. "They want to do a technical review of your system. Their chief architect, Dr. Mueller, wants to see how the algorithms work from the inside." My heart sank into my heels. "What exactly does he want to see?" I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. "Standard procedure for large contracts," Anna explained. "Analyzing the system architecture, reviewing the machine learning algorithms used, testing on their own data. They have to make sure that your technology really meets the stated specifications." I asked for time to prepare and hung up. For the first time in the whole time I was working on the project, I realized that I had fallen into the trap of my own success. The better the system worked, the more attention it received. And the more attention, the higher the risk of exposure. In the evening of the same day, I received a letter from Dr. Mueller. "Mr. Nikolaev, we are planning a technical examination of your system next week. Please prepare a demonstration of the algorithm's operation on arbitrary data, which we will bring with us. We are also interested in the neural network architecture and real-time performance metrics." I reread the letter several times. Demonstrating on random data meant that I couldn't prepare my implementers in advance. Neural network architecture. We had to show real code and algorithms, real-time metrics. No one from the Ukrainian team could be involved in the process. For the first time in the 6 months I've been working on DocuMind, I realized that there might come a point when I have nothing to show for it. Chapter 4: The Collapse of the Empire. On the morning of the 25th of May 2023, I warned all Ukrainians about a critical demo. I doubled their hourly rate, asked them to be online from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock Berlin time. Taskmaster assured that the best performers would be ready. At 9:30, Dr. Mueller entered the meeting room with 2 colleagues. In his hands were a folder of documents and a flash drive with test files. "Mr. Nikolaev, show the processing in real time," he said. I uploaded the first document, an insurance policy in German. A red dot flashed in the admin panel. Oksana from the Kiev shift had taken the task. 4 minutes later, the system produced a perfect result. "Impressive," Dr. Mueller admitted. "Let's try a few more." For the next half an hour, everything went smoothly. The Ukrainian team worked flawlessly. The documents were processed quickly and accurately. But then Dr. Mueller uploaded a file that changed everything. "It's a special test," he explained. "The document contains hidden metadata and watermarks. Only a machine learning algorithm will be able to interpret them correctly." I didn't understand what he was talking about, but I uploaded the file to the system. Andriy from the Dnipro team took up the task. 5 minutes later, the system produced the result. Everything looked normal from the outside. The text was extracted, the fields were filled in. Dr. Mueller studied the result and frowned. "That's odd," he said. "Your system ignored the hidden metadata. Any modern recognition algorithm should have detected them." I tried to explain, perhaps the algorithm deemed this data irrelevant. "No," Dr. Mueller interrupted. "But there is something more interesting. This document I created 5 minutes ago. It has a unique signature that changes every second. Your system extracted a signature that was current at exactly the time it was processed." He looked at me carefully. "Do you know what this means? Someone manually opened that file and copied the data exactly as a human saw it on the screen. A machine learning algorithm would have worked with the original bytes of the file, not the visual representation." My heart sank into my heels. I knew we were caught. "In addition," the technical expert continued, "we have analyzed the response time of your system. 4 to 6 minutes is ideal, regardless of the complexity of the document. This is typical of manual processing, not algorithms." The game was over. In the evening, Anna Mueller called with an ultimatum. "Alex, we have evidence of fraud. Either you explain yourself, or we'll hand the case over to the police." I chose honesty. I told everything from the fake co-founders to the Ukrainian team. The following weeks were spent in negotiations with lawyers. The international nature of the scheme and legal loopholes helped avoid a criminal case, but a civil suit was inevitable. I returned $1.3 million to investors, paid compensation to clients, and closed the company. There was about $500,000 left of the $2 million. My earnings for 6 months of deception. Now I live in another country under a different name. I run a legitimate business. I advise real startups on attracting investment. Ironically, the experience of building a fake AI startup made me an expert on real AI technologies. Now I help entrepreneurs present their developments honestly. Sometimes I think about that Ukrainian guy, Script Kitty, whose story inspired me to take this venture. Is he still working for pennies for another revolutionary startup? Perhaps this confession will help someone not to repeat my path, or give ideas for their own schemes. Remember, in the venture capital world, the line between innovation and deception is often thinner than it appears. And sooner or later, any lie will be exposed, especially when real experts are involved. The story was written by user Alex_CEO on the Tech Underground forum on the 3rd of January 2024. In the comments, several programmers recognized similar schemes. One wrote that a friend still works for $4 an hour training AI for a startup. According to MMC Ventures, 40% of European AI startups do not use real machine learning. Beautiful presentations often hide manual labor for pennies. Remember, real technology requires transparency. A startup hiding technical documentation is probably hiding something. As always, you're Mr. Dark Web.